anybody who's listening to this, I want to welcome them to listening to our little podcast. I'm known in my family as Grandpa Don, but I'm also a retired chaplain in the Lutheran Church in America. Originally, an ALC merger happened, and now I'm an ELCA pastor, retired, and also chaplain, professional chaplain. And I'm here with a friend that I have gained because of where I was working here in Minneapolis. And Minneapolis is where my friend Henry brought his mother to be cared for. So we got to be acquainted, and we found out we're the same age almost. And recently we've each celebrated our 77th birthday. So we're now part of the 77 Club.
Yes, sir.
So we're in this together as our ages are somewhat matched. And it's been very interesting to have an opportunity to know someone who's had a very different place in life where growing up, and compared to me, being out in a country sort of thing. To my grandchildren who might be listening, and to anyone else, I'd like to welcome you, Henry. And I think we can say you started life in Los Angeles, California.
Yes, sir.
African American you are. I guess we better say that. I'm a descendant of Scandinavians who showed up here about 150, 200 years ago, and came up to the wilderness of the upper Midwest. And Henry, welcome. And I'd like you to just introduce yourself a little bit about where you started in life and anything else you want to tell us to get started.
Sure. Well, Mr. Don, he said mostly about giving me the opportunity to visit today with him. I sort of come here to the Twin Cities the long way around, in my opinion. I still have friends that live out in California, and I talk to them from time to time, and they keep me up to speed on what's going on out there, as if I already don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe we can just set it a little bit. I think both of us were born during World War II. 1945 for you, 1944 for me.
45 for me in March 1945.
Yeah, and I was November of 1944. So
yeah,
we were war babies.
We are war babies. And I came out here, I think, the latter part of 1999 into 2000 for reasons, even to this day. Honestly, I think about it, and it's almost like for unknown reasons. Things do happen. Things happen in your life that cause you to make decisions. At the time, I had to make a decision either to remain in Southern California, but in that world back then, it wasn't too kind. I'll put it nicely. Yeah. It wasn't too kind. There was too many things going on, things that I really didn't care that much for at the time. Being from Southern California, born and raised there, and I decided, well, maybe I needed a change in my life. Maybe I needed to take my family and move and relocate. Maybe I needed to make a decision. Sometimes it's hard to make those kinds of decisions. And then my wife's family, they are originally from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, more or less. I got a call one day from a sister-in-law who I hadn't seen in a while. And she said, "You can't be any worse off." Man, how about making a move?
And maybe we should talk about how worse off you were, because you, first of all, I understand you grew up, of course, in LA, and you had some interesting stories about your childhood we can go into a little later, but you also then went to the Marines.
Yes.
And served our country during the Vietnam War, very much early in that Vietnam era.
Early part of Vietnam War that I went into.
Yeah. So that was a big story, and then you came back and went through some things, deciding to finally leave the military to go into private life, and then you had a job, I believe, That turned into a pretty good one for a while.
Yeah, 19 years working for a security company.
Yeah.
Until they were having some issues. That's a long
And that's
story.
another story. But the
whole nother
issues
story.
meant that eventually they and you had to, I mean, their company did not end well, and your employment did kind of ended, right?
Right. I ran into an issue there that when you have a change automatically, suddenly, of management who feels that they need to take the company, or they're claiming they're taking the company in another direction, part of that change,
Yep.
things get difficult.
And pretty much to find another job at that point wasn't there, right?
Wasn't there. No one didn't come knocking on my door saying, Henry,
Yep.
I understand you're going through, there's some issues there you're dealing with, but no, I had to make all these decisions on my own. And it wasn't easy. Because why? Well, living in Los Angeles, it's a fast world out there. It's fast paced. It's it's vast. It's big. There's a lot going on out there. If you don't get into that mainstream, get into that fast lane with everybody else, you get lost, man.
And in your case, basically, you kind of, if I can say, that you really lost pretty much everything.
Yes, lost everything. Because when I came to Minnesota, I didn't have anything but a overnight bag.
Yeah.
At the time I came out here by Greyhound, from downtown LA to downtown Minneapolis. We had enough money to buy bus tickets. We didn't have enough money to fly on an airplane, one of the commercial airliners. So we bought bus tickets, and I had sent my family out here 2 weeks before I came out because I had to remain in LA to take care of storage and personal items and
Right.
where this stuff was going to be kept.
And you were homeless for a while, right?
Yeah, I was homeless. We were homeless for like 5 months. And that's a whole nother world. I don't wish that on anybody. It's there, it's needy, but there are some things that go on in that whole world that I was just surprised on the type of things that took place in that whole shelter business.
And you were really feeling pretty uncomfortable in that situation. Some of them kind of looking at you with some questions about what you're doing or what you might be doing, or accusations sometimes, and then you saw other behaviors.
It was hard for me to understand the system
Yeah.
and how the system works, particularly coming from the Marine Corps for 10 years and dealing with that whole regiment routine. And then you're going to this other system where people are telling you, when to show up, when to leave, and not giving you any answers to any of your questions, and watching things going on that that it don't take rocket science to figure it out. Something else is going on behind the scenes, and you're trying to figure things out, and you say to yourself, "Well, wait a minute. This whole thing is supposed to be for the welfare of people who need it,
Yeah.
but the people who need it aren't getting what they need."
Yeah.
Basically, what was going on? You find people who are management positions in that whole welfare scheme are ripping things off and taking things that you actually see for yourself what was going on. But I'm one guy. I'm just me. I'm just trying to make it with my family.
You're trying to make it through some tough times, as you know, and your skills of being able to survive were pretty much helped with your Marine Corps experience.
Absolutely. I had to rely upon my Marine Corps experience because that got me through having to deal with all this adversity. One thing about the Marine Corps, it teach you how to persevere and move forward. No looking in the rearview mirror, because looking in the rearview mirror is not going to get you anywhere.
And you were probably at a place not terribly well, maybe even more vulnerable in some ways than what you were going through in your Marine days when you were in a war zone.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Of course,
that's true.
it wasn't the same, but it was.
No, it wasn't the same, but human nature is human nature.
Yeah, and the point being that you're here. I mean, I'm sitting with you in Perkins, and here we are,
Yeah.
and you're still here, and survived that. I'm just so admiring of the fact that you've been through that sort of thing, and your family too. Really, your wife had to go through some of that, and your son. I don't know where he was at in that time.
Yeah. I had a 9-year-old son who some decisions some decisions had to be made, some tough ones had to be made. And what I decided to do, we had some family friends close by, and I decided to have a nice little family talk with them and said, I really didn't want to bring my son through all this and having to, experience all of these issues that are going on. He's 9 years old. What are you going to tell a 9-year-old? I decided that if he could stay with the aunt or the uncles, and they have kids, he'll still have the security, still have the family friendship going on. You can stay in school, still get educated.
And here's where
it was important.
That's right, and you had that family connection to be able to provide that opportunity for him in that really difficult time.
Absolutely.
And you really went through what I would call you were pretty much in a middle class sort of situation. You were working. You had a nice home, I would say.
A nice home in Pasadena, California, and right down the street from the Rose Bowl, and and I was making a very good income.
Yep.
I've been working with this company 19 years, going into 20. And then one day I got a phone call that one of the principal partners had passed away suddenly, and his partner took over the business, and
everything changed.
I knew, I'm out the door.
And so this is what you went through was really shocking.
Yes, and it happened suddenly. There was no
no
heads up, no warning, nothing. Here's a check. Thank you for your 19 years going into 20, and don't let the door hit you when you leave. That's basically what it all boiled down to.
That's where you were. And so you were in that sort of transition of about 5 months, really, without. Well, you lost your home, your car.
Lost the car. I'll never forget. Some guy driving a tow truck pulled up into my driveway one morning, and I heard all this racket going on, and he hooked up my car, and next thing I know, is going out the driveway, going down the main street.
Yeah.
Disappeared.
That was
anymore,
that was it.
That was it. And so I decided that, what else is gonna? Now I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And that was my wife and I. One day we decided that we had to go make grocery shopping, and when I came back home, they had changed the locks on the door at the house and put a big sign on the front door: contact this mortgage company. And couldn't get into the house.
And there it was.
Finally, when we contacted someone at the mortgage company, they sent a representative. They opened up and they said, you have the right to get your personal items off the property, and and these kinds of things, you can't plan for this. This is part of life that you think everything is going fine, and next thing you know, you get caught up in this whole snowball effect.
Yes, yeah.
And it gets bigger than what you want it to get. You can't move it. You can't slow it down. it just takes on its own life,
And you just go with the flow of whatever is happening, and you're out of control some way. So you got into this place, and you were talking about your wife got to come back up here to Minnesota, and then you also followed a couple weeks after bus ticket time. You moved up here.
After I got our personal things settled, got it settled in what we're going to end up doing and how we can get back out here to California and reclaim it later on once we got settled in the Twin Cities area. Then I got on the Greyhound bus myself, and back then Greyhound took 4 or 5 days to go anywhere. So
Sure.
finally got into the Minneapolis area, and then my wife and her sister and my sister-in-law met me at Greyhound, and my sister-in-law had a house. She was leasing a house here in South Minneapolis. It was a 3 or 4 bedroom house, and her kids, she had kids too, but they were all young adults now. And by the time we came back to the Twin Cities, we seen them before, and they were in that 6, 7, and 8-year-old, and maybe going into elementary school. By the time we saw them again, they were all over. I don't know. They were maybe late teens, early 20s. That's how we saw them all again. And so they were mostly all gone their own way. So she had this 3 or 4 bedroom house that she was leasing. She said, look, I got all this room. My kids are all out and about, and they're.
So here again, you had some family that helped out.
There was that connection there that my wife had through her.
Through your wife. And then, Henry, I remember you telling me a story. I mean, you went out looking for work. I mean, you were just a fellow that you're a Marine. You're not going to just sit around and feel sorry for yourself.
No Tweely Deets, Willie Dumb.
Right.
No.
So tell me about the story of being out there. I remember there was a story about some kind of a miraculous thing of some money floating down the street.
Oh, yes. Now, obviously, I'm looking for work. Once I got sort of settled in the Twin Cities, and when I say settled, I've never been into Minneapolis in the St. Paul area. So I'm trying to figure out, well, where's north? Where's south? How do I get here? How do I get there? Remember, I came here not knowing anything. I mean, it's all brand new. I was trying to get my bearings straight,
Yeah.
Again, I had to kind of rely upon my Marine Corps training, because they kind of teach you the same thing, basically, how to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I had to try to figure out. So I went downtown Minneapolis, and someone had to tell me what downtown was. Again, I'm new. Okay. So I get in downtown Minneapolis one day, and I'm walking around, and the weirdest, strangest thing sort of happened on that particular day. I was down on, I think, at the intersection of Hennepin and 8th. And suddenly this gust of wind came at me, and I'm wondering, wow, where did this come from? And I kept trying to figure, and it caught me totally by surprise. And I started looking around, and I saw all these papers and everything rolling down the street with this wind coming up. I saw something that caused me to kind of, whoa, what is this? I didn't know if it was money. I didn't know what it was. But I stopped and I looked at it, and it came, and it ended up right near my right shoe, right toe, and I put my foot on it. I bent down, picked it up, and it was $100 bill.
Wow.
Out of nowhere. I held it up to the sun. I looked at it. People were looking at me, looking at this $100 bill. And they just kept walking by. And I'm looking and I'm waiting for someone to say, whoa, that's my money. Or start hollering or something, or hold on to that guy and hold the money too, and whatever. But none of that happened. Okay. So I decided, well, hey, maybe this was a divine intervention,
A good omen
a good one.
for a change.
Yes. So I decided to go on and just put it in my pocket and move on. I didn't hear anybody. No one didn't say anything to me.
Right.
I just went on, decided to continue on, and I ended up getting back home. And I said, okay. I was telling my wife, I said, you know what? You won't believe this. You better sit down. And she said, what happened? I showed her this $100 bill. And she says, is that real? I says, I'm pretty sure it is. It's got some kind of watermarking in it, you know. And I mean, things started to pick up. Life started to get better.
Yes.
I started having a little pep in my step. Next thing I know, I was getting calls from day labor places asking me to come to work. And I ended up working over at one of the job sites they had. And was being called to work every day. And I was able to make some little money and buy a few things.
Yes.
And one day I happened to be walking around trying to figure out, well, what else can I do? Because I knew that this particular job was going to be coming to an end. It was only available for a certain period of time because it was one of these funded kind of programs, I guess, to the county or to the government. So I was in downtown walking around trying to figure out, you know, what's next. And I happened to come across this big building with a circle with a T in the middle of it. And I'm wondering, well, what are they doing there? So I go in there and there's this lady sitting at the desk. And I said, ma'am, I'm looking for work. What is it exactly that you do here? She said, well, we're a transit company. We provide transit. Okay. Well, you have any openings? No, but I can put your name on a call list. So when we have the openings become available, I'll send you some information and you respond to it. And then we'll see what's going on after that. I said, okay, no problem. Fine. I gave her my name and address and phone number that she can reach out to me. And you know, I didn't hear from those folks for 4 months. And suddenly I got a letter asking me if I'm still interested in a position as a bus driver, operator, to go to 1919 University Avenue, St. Paul, because we're starting a class for training. And that's exactly what I did. I answered the letter. I was able to get over to 1919 University Avenue at the time that they requested it. The rest is history, as they say.
And you became a transit driver. You were running buses around. And
yes, sir.
How many years did you do that here?
From the year December 1999 till September 2010. Yeah.
So about 10, 11 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would have continued to get enough time in to retire, but I had a little detour, as they say. I ended up coming down with this issue of dealing with cancer because I was exposed to all this Agent Orange when I was in Vietnam. And
so that was...
I had to make a decision because I had to be treated for this cancer and go through all these treatments and everything. And I walked in my supervisor's office one day and I said, Ellen, my supervisor.
Yeah.
So I got to make a decision. So he says, Henry, what's up? I said, you know, I got to deal with all this issues with this medical, and I got to go through all these treatments and everything, radiation and all. And I says, I don't want to jeopardize this company. I don't want to jeopardize what potential career I have. I said the best thing for me to do is to put in for early retirement. And she says, well, you know, you got to be here 17 years. And you don't have 17 years and you started kind of late.
Uh-huh.
And you have, what, 12 now, 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So she says what we can do is maybe allow you to continue working on something called the Family Medical Leave Act to protect your position, and maybe have you come in the morning, work a morning shift while you go and take care of your medical issues in the afternoon. We tried it,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't something I really wanted to do. Either I'm going all in for it, or
Sure.
I'm going to have to make another decision to go in a different direction. She understood that, and she said, "You're one of the good guys. We know when you show up, that bus is going to leave this garage and make money. But," she says, "it's your decision.
Yep.
You make that decision." And I'm one of these kind of guys that to make a decision is better than no decision.
Yep.
And I discussed it with the family and everything like that. And in the meantime, I was able to figure out what else could I do? What skills do I have? How do I figure things out? What education I needed? On and on and on. And so I had to develop my own little war room, as they say,
Yeah. Yep.
and figure things out and move on with life. And that's what I decided to do. Well, all this time is going by. I'm getting older,
Yep.
and by the time I felt I'm sort of at the end of my schedule and my work schedule and my knowledge and everything, next thing I know, here comes 65 years old. I said, "Oh, now I got to deal with something else now."
Those doggone numbers just climbed up there.
Yeah. So things are just happening, and I'm trying to negotiate and navigate through all this.
Absolutely.
And I did.
Yep.
I persevered
Absolutely.
and I stayed the course.
And you have been able to get some of the help through the VA that's been part of your medical care.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're also on a disability, I believe, that you finally got for all of what you went through.
It took me a couple of years to navigate through all that red tape with the VA.
Yeah.
VA has a way of doing things. They have their own set of rules and regulations that veterans have to adhere to if you want to be compensated. You can't just walk in the door and walk out the door and be a happy camper. It don't work that way. There's a lot of things that they require you to do. And not knowing any of how to handle all this, I had to figure out, how do I deal with these people?
Yeah.
And
Again, negotiating the system.
Yes.
So, yep.
And I found out that it all boils down to getting to the right person at the right time, knowing how to negotiate, how to help you. And I was told that I needed to get a hold of someone who knew how to handle, who deals with the VA all the time through one of these organizations. And one of them I was dealing with was called the American Legion, which they are not a part of the federal government. I was also told the key to all this, don't deal with someone who's already in the government, deal with someone who's outside of the government, but they know all the ins and outs of the government. And that's what I decided to do.
You got the kind of direction, help, and made it through. And I know you probably have been one of the few that I've heard of who've really gone through this and gotten to the place where you deserved, got what you deserved in terms of the support.
Absolutely.
Your.
It took a while. It's a lot of patience.
Yes.
And it taught me something that, again, you have to hang in there, persevere, understand, educate yourself, get to the right people.
Yes.
That knows how to lead you and help you through all this. Yes. And that's exactly what I did.
Well, Henry, I have watched you in these latter years as we've known each other, and I just have had a tremendous amount of respect and an admiration for you being someone that has done this. And I've heard some of your stories, of course, before now, and that's why I wanted to get this on a recording of hearing your story. And then, I got kids that know, life can be like that, it can be really a tough time sometimes. We don't have control over everything that happens around us, but what you do is you do what you know you can do, right?
Absolutely.
And you learned that and growing up in LA, other influences were there too, but you found in the system of the Marines a kind of discipline and a kind of perseverance that's
Yes.
really served you well through the rest of your life up until now.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I want to celebrate. Our government did something good for you there too.
For you,
And you were able to to do that. So the thanking, you get that once in a while. People will thank you for your service.
Oh yeah. It happened to me recently. A lady wrote me a note and attached it to my car.
Wow. Yeah.
And on this note, she said, "Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you for being in the Marine Corps."
Yeah.
She said she had an uncle that was in the Marines during World War II in Iwo Jima, and I just wanted to acknowledge,
Yep.
and that.
And those are really good things to hear once in a while. Now.
Yeah, it makes you proud to be who you are.
Yep.
And there's so many things that go on in this world. And it's not always about money. It's not always about race. It's not always about education. It's where your heart is, really.
Yeah. Well, and your heart has been really strong. And I'm going to say that at another time when we do this, we're going to talk about your mother, because I think
Absolutely.
she is really
That's a whole nother
story that we'll need to do. So thank you, Henry. This has been a tremendous time to talk, and I'm hoping those of you who have been listening have found this to be of interest as well. And perseverance, a little help from God with the wind blowing the money to you.
Right to my feet.
Is a wonderful story of something of grace that you couldn't have made happen, or
I had food on that table for 3 or 4 days.
That's a story that I think just puts a little frosting on the cake of going through hell, really. That you were really struggling through, and I admire your family, all of the family that you have around you that was able to help you even as you were going through some of that really tough time.
I sure do appreciate your kind words.
And your son will be another one we can talk about. I think he's done pretty well for himself since those days, hasn't he? Well, with that, I'm going to end this. Thank you, Henry, and
thank you.
I'm glad that you could listen, and have a wonderful day.
You're welcome.